here to talk about some lessons that this book has taught me. It's the latest debut novel that I've read. If you take a look at this picture, little lady who's kind of marked there in a circle. So I want all of you to imagine you're back in school in a chemistry class, right? I mean, some of you, I'm assuming most of you would have studied chemistry much like I did. None of it ever made sense to me. Periodic tables, all of those equations, I still get nightmares. And that lady there with a brilliant smile was my chemistry teacher. Her name was Lokhi Datta. So a lot of all this I kind of owe to her. So why is it that I'm standing here and talking about a book that's actually called Lessons in Chemistry? Right? When I heard the topic, I was like, lessons in chemistry? No way. I don't think I'm ready for this. But I did, because I respected a lot, I did go and kind of check out the book and flip through it. And what got me was the name of the protagonist, Elizabeth Zott. I thought it just rang out so purposeful, old world, Victorian, yet her second name, right, Zott, had so much purpose in it. And that's what actually got me hooked. I read it in 5 hours straight once I got it home one night. And that book has, this was about maybe two or 3 months ago, and the book has stayed with me since. So when Mohit said that, can you come and talk about a book, I was like, okay, this is the one which is top of mind, and this is the one that I'm going to talk about. It's brilliant writing. She's a debut novelist. She was a copywriter. Extremely witty, very simple, lovely messaging. It's based in 1960s America. It's about a protagonist called Elizabeth Zott, who is a chemist in the 1960s, in an era where women, barely did stuff other than cooking and cleaning, looking after their husbands and children. Right? So she faces a lot of adversity in her career, in her relationships, and the book really kind of puts that out well. The strong character is something that resonated with me, as did the really, really witty writing. It's funny. There's a dog. There's a young kid. There are lots of micro characters who are very interesting. It also talks about a sport, rowing. I never knew anything about rowing, but now I do after reading. So here, what I'm going to tell you, talk about is just 5 simple lessons that I feel this book taught me. So, what are the lessons that lessons in chemistry taught me? Right? So, what do you do when life gives you lemons? Right? We've all heard of the saying, right? You make lemonade, or you kind of complain about the sour taste and you're like, oh no, what can I didn't know lemons had chemistry, right? Or there was a chemistry behind lemons, but it is, right? So what do you do when life gives you lemons? So I think one of the key things in the book is about the choices that one makes as an individual. I don't know how many of you have watched Breaking Bad. It's my husband's favorite series. I haven't seen it till date, mostly because it was about a chemistry teacher. But he tells me about it. So Walter White is the protagonist there, right? And he's a high school chemistry teacher. He gets cancer. I'm sorry if I'm throwing out some spoilers, but he gets cancer and he decides to make his family financially secure. How does he do this? He uses his chemistry skills to start cooking meth. That's a drug, right? And he essentially becomes a drug supplier or drug dealer. Right? So that's the choice he made. Same field, chemistry. He's a high school chemistry teacher. He makes that choice and that takes him down. I mean, he's sitting there in prison, I think. So it takes him down a certain path, right? The choices that he makes. Now, when it comes to Elizabeth Zott, I think it's so much more refreshing because she she studies hard. So she grows up with a zealot as a father. She has a brother who commits suicide because he's homosexual and that's not accepted in the family. She faces discrimination because she's a woman in a man's world everywhere, right? In college, she's assaulted, where a pencil comes to her rescue of all things. And so on. Even when she starts working as a researcher, she's expected to get the copy and to carry the copy paper from here and there, but her work is not taken seriously and it's stolen and published under a man's name, right? So she undergoes all of that. However, she falls in love with a scientist and chooses actually not to marry him, and then she has a child and brings up the child as a single mother, and he passes away, and then she gets fired from her job, and then she has to make a choice, right? What is she going to do? So there was a choice that Walter White made, and she chooses to use chemistry because she has a very clear sense of what's wrong, right, and what she wants to do. So she uses her skills in chemistry to actually do what another thing that she really enjoys, which is cooking, right? And she's always said cooking is like chemistry, and she becomes the star of a show called Supper at 6, which is telecast on TV, and she's got like a huge following, right? So just the fact that she believes in what is right is actually fantastic. So the first lesson that I got, and this is a quote from the book, and this is her daughter speaking, right? So she's asking, what makes me me? And the answer really that she gives is that what you choose to do. So how you live your life is really what makes you as an individual, and there's so much in this book that actually teaches us that. Moving to the second lesson, right? So I've been working for over 20 years now, and there have always been various kind of choices that one has to make. Elizabeth Zott is, she calls herself, right, in the book, that she's a chemist by profession but a cook show host by default. And she uses her skills in chemistry to actually start cooking. And I don't know how many of you have read a book called Masala Art by Krish Ashok. It's one of the few non-fiction books I've read. He follows, he brings the chemistry of cooking alive and how it's all about heat, change, temperature, and all of that, right? So what Elizabeth Zott is doing is actually really kind of using her passion about chemistry, about science, her whole rational thinking, and bringing it back, something that's so, kind of at the heart of the home, cooking, and then taking it to millions of homes through the television show that she does. And her approach to cooking is actually very, it's kind of unique. I'll just read a little bit, and I'm going to ask you what she's doing, right? The internal bonds in order to elongate the amino acid chain, which will allow the freed atoms to bond with other similarly freed atoms. Then I'll reconstitute the mix into a loose whole, laying it on a surface of iron carbon alloy, where I'll subject it to precision heat, continually agitating the mix until it reaches a near stage of coagulation. Anyone wants to guess what she's doing? Yes, it's an omelette. God, I've never guessed that. Yeah, so she's making an omelette. So that's her. And this show, Supper at 6, actually makes her a star much more than her chemistry code or her science code, and that actually makes her sad. She's she's depressed and she's melancholy about this. But what I kind of took out of it really was that if you stay true to your passion, I guess the rest will follow. The third thing, right? I don't know how many of you have heard of the feminine mystique. So this is Betty Friedan. She actually wrote about what she called the problem that one cannot name. How women in 1960s America were extremely unhappy because their roles were confined to the home and house, right? And this book talks a lot about that, right? And about how Elizabeth struggles every day with the role that she wants, the fact that she has a mind but is not allowed to speak out, right? And I think this is something that's really relevant even today. It's like, 60 years since Betty Friedan wrote that book. But we've still got campaigns like this one. Aerial campaign called Share the Load, which actually asks men. I don't know how many men in this room did laundry ever. Great, we've at least got a few, right? But look at the proportion of hands. So that's the whole inequality that one talks about, right? So a lot of all this is still so relevant today. But I think the important thing is for women to recognize this. And they also need to become owners of this change. But I really believe, like Elizabeth, that chemistry is change. Ask yourself what you will change and then just get started. It's never easy, but I think making a beginning is always the first step. And one of the things that Elizabeth does in this book is when she signs off the show, which is called Supper at 6, she says, "Children, go lay the table because your mother needs a moment to herself." So I think that's something that just it just kind of touched me somewhere, because I would just kill for that moment for myself. I mean, so many days in a week or a year, right? So I think this, while I've spoken about it in context of women, but I think it's equally true for everyone. I think taking that moment for yourself is extremely, extremely critical. So let's all do that. The final lesson, there's a dog in the book called 630, and I couldn't have done this talk without speaking about him. And if you read the book, you'll know why. If you're even the slightest amount of an animal lover, he's a dog. He's called 630 because 630 was the time when he started following Elizabeth. He's an abandoned bomb squad dog who's scared of loud noises. So obviously he didn't do a good job finding bombs, right? And he's a dog with a vocabulary. So that's why I love this dog. So I think one thing that I learned, and I don't have a dog yet, and I'm waiting, that when it's really meant to be, the right dog will find you. Yeah. A few lessons that I learned from this wonderful book. Thank you so much.